sectors, maps, and figures. In many corporate publications like annual reports, chairman's speech, corporate profiles, a lot of statistical data is to be incorporated and it cannot be avoided also. So much of the burden in the comprehension of the statistical data can be represented in diagrams to explain such crucial information like growth of the organization in terms of expenditure, production, output, etc. will cover in the publications. We will need to know what is the importance of diagrammatic representation. So importance of diagrammatic representation, a diagram offers the required information in lesser time and without much hassle to search through a jungle of statistics. Diagrams can be better remembered than figures, especially when the figures are more than 3. They have an enduring impact on the mind of the beholder. Diagram can be better remembered than figures, especially when the figures are more than 3. So what will cover in the diagram? For example, if the revenue of a state budget, this is represented in a circle or pie diagram, or sometimes we use bar diagrams. What will cover in this? The rupee comes and goes. One can easily remember the areas occupied by the various sources like excise tax, commercial tax, entertainment tax, road tax. All these covers under the revenue. Similarly, the expenditures on development like rural development, social sector, irrigation, all these cover under the expenditure can be represented in the diagram or various other diagrams. One can easily remember the source offers the highest revenue to the state exchequer and which sector the state is spending more there next and so on. Though diagrammatic representation offers easy compression than statistical depiction. There is also limitations while preparing the diagrammatic representation. While there are several advantages in diagrammatic representation, there are some limitations we should be kept in mind to explain the full potential of diagrammatic representation. Diagrammatic representation is only a supportive tool to textual narration. It is not at all a substitution to tabulation. In generally, diagrammatic representation is more useful in making compressions. It is absolutely of no use in the absence of any possibility for compression. Further, even while compressions, it will not be possible to focus on very minute and small differences in diagrams. Moreover, diagrams are approximation for the exact figures in statistical table, and therefore they are not precise in their information. 2 or 3 dimensional diagrams sometimes are difficult to understand than the figures in statistical table. So these are some limitations. These are some limitations we have with the diagrammatic representation also. Norms in drawing diagrams. There is also some rules we need to know the rules. It is better to draw diagrams with the aid of geometrical instruments. Give an explanatory heading at the top of the diagram. Observe neatness to make the diagram sparkle and look clean. Show the vertical and horizontal scales on the diagram. The vertical on the left hand side and horizontal at the bottom of the diagram. Plan the content of the diagram as simple as possible to make the reader understand the message easily. These are some rules while preparing the diagrams. Various methods and knowledge of their drawing will be useful in constructing diagrams. The selection of the method depends on the characteristics of the data and the objectives of drawing the diagram. Diagrammatic representation can be made in several ways. Some of the important methods are one-dimensional bars, two-dimensional rectangles, squares, and circles, and pictures in the place of diagram. It is better to draw diagrams with the aid of geometrical instrumentation. There is two types of categories in the diagrams. One is charts, another one is graphs. What will come in the chart? The two are quite often used in an interchangeable manner, though they are of different approaches. When the numerical data is to be categorized or averages are to be worked out and be presented in a way that can be easily understood, it is possible through charts. Charts can be used to present the differences in various aspects of surveys and numerical figures in a simple manner. Charts contain numerical results looking out the visual itself. These are mostly used in business and debates. Now coming to the graphs. Graph is useful to analyze and present extract numerical data. While preparing charts, we must remember some points. There is also number of types in the charts. The types of charts to be drawn depend upon the statistical data you have on hand, like comparison or relationship chart. Then you have to draw or prepare together in the diagram to point out a correlation or some type of pattern. This chart is very much useful. Another one is Venn diagram. These are quality in nature and are very handy to depict relationships. One more is distribution chart. These convey the distribution of data. Suppose you have conducted a survey and obtained the age groups of the respondents. This chart would be useful to present the distribution of ages of the respondents. And the composition of chart. This is a very commonly used chart to show how the data is composed. The popular one in this pie chart. For example, if you want to show that water is composed of 20% of oxygen and 1% of hydrogen and 79% of other gases. this pie chart is very handy. Flow and process of chart. These charts intended to aid decision making, and hence are called decision trees. These charts indicates the flow of the process. And one more chart, that is a location chart, location map. These are map inspiring charts and graphs used to explain a very complicated subject. In this geographical maps and data overlay on maps, we can do location chart. Now coming to the another point is graphs, the visual presentation of very complex numerical data in a way that can be easily understood is possible through graph. Graph consists of actual numerical data. There is also number of types of graphs we have. Among them, the important one is pictograph. In this, smaller pictures are drawn to indicate some amount of a particular item. The pictures are arranged one after another in graph. This graph explains the meaning of the content through the resemblance to a physical subject. When the characters are pictorial in their appearance, pictographs are used in a writing and graphic representation. This is a more useful in tourist literature and to depict data for easy compression. Another one is bar graph. Most common diagrammatic representation used to represent two types of related data. It can be horizontal or vertical. Each axis can be used to represent one of the two variables, and its related to variable can be shown on the other axis. Bar diagrams can be drawn in three-dimensional ways also. One more type of graphs are line graphs. To compare two of a variable in a data, a line graph is useful. In this, the graph sheet is normally used. On the x-axis, one of the variables is depicted, and on the y-axis, its corresponding variable is plotted on a grid. Therefore, the line graph consists of dot connected and grid plotted lines. The lines compare different data sets. Therefore, line graph is useful to depict variables of one more sets of similar subjects at a time. We have more types of graphs like histogram, dot plot, scatter plot, and stem and leaf plot, time series graphs. So each kind of graph its own advantage. So based on the data, we can adopt the variety type of graph. Now coming to discuss on the histogram, once we will recall here, useful to depict quantitative data. This is a more like a bar diagram. Ranges of values are plotted on the horizontal axis, and its corresponding variable in higher frequency will be on the vertical axis. Stem and leaf plot useful to list all values of data in a compact manner. This divides the quantitative data into two pieces. Value of highest place is indicated in the stem and its corresponding values in the leaf. Dot plot, this is a compound plot of histogram, and leaf plot, it is represented as the dots on top of relevant class values. Now coming to discuss on the bars, the easiest and most adaptable general purpose diagram is the bar diagram. It is also the most widely used method, diagrammatic representation. It can be a vertical bar or a horizontal one, and there is a no odd and fast rule prohibiting its depiction in either way. It all depends upon the preferences and the convenience of the reader. So we need to know some points while preparing bar graphs. Construct the bar diagram on a sheet of graph, as it will help in better compression and in accurately determining the size of the bar. Another one is draw the diagram to a scale to effectively depict the variables under study. The bars should be arranged from top to bottom in the case of horizontal representation, and from left to right while depicting vertically according to the magnitude. The scale should be written on the top of the diagram. To give a pleasant look, separate different bars by equal distances. All the bars should rest on the same baseline. Bars drawn on a single study of an aspect should be of the same width. It will suggest to the reader that the width of the bar has no specific suggestion to offer except to make it attractive. So there is also number of types in the diagrams, like in the bar diagrams. Those are the rectangle diagram, square diagram, picture diagram. So rectangle is a two-dimensional diagram when you take into consideration its height and width for the purpose of representation. As already mentioned, the thickness of a bar diagram is not at all significant, but here width and height are both crucial. Another one is a square diagram. When qualities differ widely in magnitude, the square diagram is useful to compare them. Now coming to picture diagram. Picture diagram helps in quick comparison of huge magnitudes, as in a wide disparities in population in the diagram. If you have any doubts on the visual representation in the publications, once again, I will summarize the unit. Diagrammatic representation will make the statistical data easy to present and explain, and it is memorized. There is a several methods of representation of statistical data. For example, like tables, averages, percentages, index numbers. These are generally used in the diagrammatic representation. This diagrammatic representation helps represent the statistical data into visual aids. Understanding through visual aids is easy, and it is also simple to represent data in visuals or diagrams. Drawing geometric lines, curves, pictures, maps, and figures for the statistical data is called diagrammatic representation. In the corporate publications, for example, annual reports, brochures, chairman's speeches, generally contain statistical data, which needs to be understood in a proper perspective by the public and especially stakeholders. Here is the public means not a general citizen, particularly the public of that office, that organization, that corporation, that company. Don't be confusion. For corporate publications, generally they focus their target audience are the public of that company only, that office only, and also stakeholders. Their compression are required in a statistical data. Diagrammatic representation is very effective to drive home the point. However, it should be remembered that diagrammatic representation is supplementary and helps in approximation. It is not a substitution for a tabulation, but we need to give the tables and also diagrammatic representations, means in the bar chart or charts, graphs. While drawing a diagram, some general rules have to be observed, which would help effective depiction of data. Neatness is the hallmark of an effective diagram. Headings in a bold letters should be on the top of the diagram. A simple diagram is understood easily. Dear students, so far we have discussed on the unit number 5, the diagrammatic representation in the publications. If you have any doubts, you may raise your now. Otherwise, you may type in the chat room. I will read out and get you back with the clarifications. If you have no doubts, I will go to the next unit. Yes, students, now we are going to the block 3, production and printing process. In this block, we have 3 units. This block forms the crux of the course, like corporate publications, endowed with the task of bringing out corporate publications, keeping economy, quality, and speed. The corporate manager finds this plot very useful in deciding which process to use for what type of works. Unit number 6, the layout and design. In this unit, we will discuss how to begin the work before it is sent for printing. A good layout is essential as a good text, and what are the relevant illustrations need to incorporate in the publication. What is layout? Essentials for good layout. Layout of corporate publications, text component, categories, display of pictures, use of layout, softwares like Quark Express, Adobe InDesign. What is typography? Selection of typefaces and size, preparation of dummy page. All these subtopics we will discuss in this unit. Layout is a graphic activity of arranging all visual elements on a page. It requires organizing skills of composition for attaining communication goals effectively. Starting from the manual copying of books in the Middle Ages to the modern computer-aided interactive layouts in the newspapers, magazines, and books, appropriate page design has been a critical consideration in production of publications. Corporate publications are designed and produced by an organization or office, corporate office, to suit its needs of a particular situations. There are many types of publications. Say an illustrated brochure, the bridge like house journal, the all important annual reports, and a regular reference office manual or a trade journal, whatever it is. All these varieties of publications differ from one another in their layout because each caters to a particular functions. The occasion and the theme are the decisive factors in the selection of the type of the publication to be brought out. While there are no hard and fast rules governing production of corporate publications, at the end of the day, it is the professional competence, expertise, and the finances that stand by the publications manager in bringing out the right type of publication for the right occasion. So now coming to the layout, the components of a layout have to be arranged in a manner that pleases the eyes of the beholder, and this exercise is called layout. It goes without saying the layout of a corporate publication. as not only to attract the attention of the readers, but also it should make a lasting impression on the mind. High level layout is the overall placement and positioning of text and images appropriate to the size and shape of the medium. It is an intelligent and creativity activity and is in tune with the culture, psychological and communication intentions and expectation of concerned writers and editors. Low level of pagination and typesetting are mechanical activities of a page composition. Within the laid down parameters of text area, typeface, specification, and font size, this can be done in a straight way. In the advent of desktop publishing, now we are using desktop publishing. Earlier there is a manual composition with the letters. So desktop publishing, these functions were fulfilled manually by people. In the modern context, these have become automated activities. Therefore, we have the published as it is outputs at one end, and highly important and costly graphic designers outputs at the other end. Essentials of a good layout. A good layout consists of the text matter, the raw material of the publication, set in an attractive manner. The content also should be written in such a way as it would entice the reader to go through the text. To attract the reader, language-wise, the first paragraph or first few paragraphs, which are the showcase of the publication, should attend the reader with characteristic expressions and ideas. A good layout lies in arrangement of text matter, illustrations, and diagrams, adoption of suitable typefaces, arrangement of captions, all in a simple manner that would attract the reader's attention. The writer, what when supplemented by illustrations and diagrams, will make the publication all the more pleasant to look at. A photo montage with appropriate write-up will add grace to the publications. Illustrations, pictures, and reading matter as well as cover in the design. Now, layout of a corporate publication. As already we discussed, the layout of the corporate publications should be conceived and executed in a manner which is attractive and have an enduring impact on the reader. The layout, which comprises of setting of text matter and captions, should be pleasant and convenient for the reader to go through. For this, there are some styles or categories of setting the reading matter. The creativity and meticulousness adopted by competing companies in preparing the layout of their publications is so intense that only the best of the layouts exist in the atmosphere of survival of the fittest. One of the important criteria in judging and awarding the best publication is layout. If the layout is good, the reader who attracts to read that text. Now coming to discuss on the text component. The textual component of a corporate publication comprises of the reading matter and captions set in the attractive manner. Broadly speaking, there are 6 styles of setting the reading matter to make the pages attractive. Earlier, there is a manual composition. So the technician or typesetter who need to put the letters on the plate and later it will go to the printing. Now we have a computer monitor, computer assisted job work we have now in the modern technology, using with the modern technology. To prepare an attractive page, there is some points we need to keep in our mind. They are solid setting or conventional style, solid setting in double column, solid setting style in triple column, symmetric setting, flush left, flush right. Generally, single column, double column, triple column is we see in the newspapers, and some in the online newspapers they are using flush left, flush right. In MS Word documents, in MS Word software, we know all this. There is a in the line, in the bar, there is options, many options like flush left, flush right options, center, symmetrical setting, centered options. All these available in the MS Word. Categories, as mentioned, there are 6 styles of setting the reading matter. For the captions, which go with the text also, there are 5 styles. Both the styles of setting of reading matter and setting of captions. Solid setting in double column, solid setting style in triple column. Here we need to know how to put the headline. Setting of headlines is very important. For example, solid setting in a double column, a page can be set in a solid style in double column. Reading matter. Naturally, the differences in the setting of reading matter is that the width of the column here is lesser than the width of single column solid setting. Matter is composed in such a manner that the lines are equal in length and the left, right, and the central margins are even as we see in the newspapers. Solid setting in a triple column. A page can be set in a triple column. Reading matter also. Here, the difference is the column width is still lesser than in the double column. Matter is composed in a way the lines are equal length and the left, right, and the central two margins are given as shown as we seen in the newspapers. Why here I am saying newspapers? Because generally we can access newspapers easily than corporate publications. So this is one example. I am taking the newspaper for all these setups. Flesh left. Generally, in English newspapers, we see the flesh left, flesh right type of setting. When the lines are flushed and made even to the left margin of the page, it is called flush left style of setting. The lines are even to left side margin, while there are uneven to the right side margin of the page. This is also very popular style of setting. Reading matter in newspapers, periodicals, and even house journals of the publication of the organizations. Now coming to discuss on the flush right. This is vice versa of the flush left style, but many of don't use this flush type. Generally, flush left is centered is okay, but flush left sometimes may use, but flush right is a minimal use in the newspapers. Now coming to discuss on the setting the headlines also. Generally, headlines will cover the which column we are using in the page setting. For example, for a particular news, if we are putting in a 3 columns, the headline should be fixed, adjust into the 3 columns. Sometimes we see in the newspaper, English newspapers, generally in the Telugu newspaper they use in a centered headlines, but in English newspapers they use the headlines left side or right side. Headlines for any reading matter in a general should be attractive, and so they are called the window pieces of reading matter. It holds good both for newspapers and more so for corporate publications, which are expected to be catchy and attractive. It goes without saying the words should be arresting and attractive. Dear students, if you have any doubts, please raise your hand or speak out. Otherwise, do chart in the chat room. I will read it and get it back with the clarifications. Now coming to discuss on the display of the pictures. There is a majorly 3 types of pictures: diagonal style of display, and vertical style of display, horizontal style of display. Photographs and graphics representation and sketches will illustrate the reading matter and help in easy explanation of the text matter. So these are to be positioned in the layout to make their impact effective to achieve the goal and add attraction to the publication. There are three styles. One is diagonal. In this style, the illustration are displayed diagonal to each other on a page. In the vertical style, illustration can be displayed vertical to the page, one below the other in a single column page. The visual effect will be enhanced if the relevant illustration is matched to the places where the mention is made of in the text. Now coming to the horizontal style, the illustration are displayed horizontal to the page with the text matter running below or above the text matter as in the diagram. For preparation of layout or design, we are now using softwares. Using with the softwares we are doing on the monitor only. Earlier the page layout was a manual system that is very difficult. Now the technology, development of the technology, we have softwares like Quark Express, Adobe InDesign. Adobe InDesign is now a popular one. There is a more softwares like a CorelDRAW, PageMaker, but Adobe InDesign is now became a popular one compared with the other softwares. Still there is a Quark Express. Many publication houses, particularly in the newspaper, they are using Quark Express software. Page layout is determined to a large extent by the style of the house and will be followed in a definite desktop template. But layout is to be followed in relation to pagination, like in books and novels without any figures. There are certain layout decisions in respect of the following: the size of page margins, the size and position of images and figures, deciding on the number and the size of columns and the gaps between columns. In general, gaps between columns we call gutter width, and placement of intentional white space, use of special effects like overlaying text on an image, run around institutions, or bleeding an image over the page margin, the use of color printing or spot color for emphasis. All these elements depends to prepare a certain page layout. Here we need to know about the Quark Express. This software is some 5 years ago. Before this is a very popular software in the newspaper organizations and in general printing presses also. Quark Express for creating and editing intricate and complex page layouts. There is a computer application. In what you see is what you get. This environment called Quark Express. Quark in a short, it has excellent designer and user-friendly features. Another one is Adobe InDesign. Desktop publishing software has been introduced by Adobe Systems. It is useful to create works like posters, flyers, brochures, magazines, newspapers, and books. This software can also publish content suitable for tablet devices in unison with Adobe Digital Publishing Suite. The principal users are graphic artists and production artists who create layout for periodical publications, posters, and in the print media. InDesign was introduced in 1999 and is the successor to PageMaker, which has yielded place to Quark Express in 1998. There is a PageMaker and CorelDRAW. One more software is a CorelDRAW. These softwares, in general, the graphical artists, they are using for preparing pages for corporate publications, brochures, and pamphlets, folders. Here, we need to know about the typography. What is typography? Typography is the art of setting the types in a manner that is most appealing to the eye. To arrange the types, it needs selection of typefaces, font size, length of the line spacing. In general, we call it is a leading. Adjusting space between group of letters, we call tracking. And adjusting the space between pairs of letters, we call it is kerning. Leading, tracking, kerning. Remember these three words. Once again, I will recall. Line spacing, we call leading. Space between group of letters, called tracking. And space between pairs of letters, called kerning. Type design is a closely related craft, though some say it is a part of typography. Most typographers are not designers of typefaces, and some type designers do not feel they are typographers. Anyone who performs the job of a typesetter or a compositor or typographer, graphic designer, art director, comic book artist, graffiti artist, and arranges types for a product is discharging the functions of typography. Till the digital age, typography was a specialized vocation. Digitalization widened the horizons of typography to new vistas of visual design and to lay users. Therefore, generally, earlier there is only typesetting with a manual typesetter manual system, but now we have computer aided typesetting. The basic requirement of a typography is various forms of types. Typography is fundamentally the design of printed text using typefaces to portray text and textual content. A printed output invariably carries text and illustration, except under special circumstances. While typography is the domain of textual segment of a printed output, it is imperative that we must be concerned about the illustrations, which is the other aspect of the printout. Selection of typeface and size. Two basic characteristics. One is the typeface and the other is type size. The font has other characteristics like size, weight, italics, etc. Typeface means letters. We have a number of typefaces like serif font, sans serif fonts. Type size, we have in newspaper they use, in a general document they use a 12 size, 11 size in the textbooks. In the newspaper also they use 10 number size. It is a general type, general size. Here we need to know the inches, precast, points, because earlier there is a manual system. They need to arrange on the plate. So to count the letters, they generally uses the inches, precast, points. 12 points means 1 pica, and 6 pica means 1 inch. But there is no use of scales nowadays, because all we are now doing on the computer monitor only. No need to separately to measure the types. Preparation of dummy is a primary, it's a draft layout. In a daily newspaper, even though in publications, corporate publications, the dummy sheets are smaller versions of an entire page. For a small publication, such as a magazine, there will be full-size versions. The sheet is divided by grid lines. The grid is a set of non-printing lines which will help editors and designers guide placement of elements. After preparation of dummy, we will do again corrections. After finalize it, we will send it to the printing. Now we have a technology, computer to plate. After preparing the page, we save it in a PDF format. PDF format is meaning that it's a print-ready copy. It is sent to the direct to the printing press from the computer, which the page designer directly in the form of PDF format, you will send it to the printing press. Yeah, dear students, if you have any doubts, let me know. Get you back with the clarifications. There is no doubts placed in the chat room, and here the time I am concluding this session.